very exciting to have a real industry maverick with us today here on the Hospitality Maverick podcast. So welcome, Bill, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I've really been looking forward to have our conversations today because we met a couple of years ago in Lewis where we had our first meeting where we had a coffee and we talked about everything within hospitality, leadership, and how the industry evolving and how you actually get your business started. And I'm sure that people are in for a real treat today when they're going to hear a bit about your story and what's happened on your journey and how you actually have built into what it is today with 80 restaurants.
Well, it's been a long time, those 2 years, a bit rock and roll, lots gone on. 2 years was sort of the tail end of that period of when I first started Bill's, when it was just fresh produce store, or fresh produce barrow, so that's sort of the summer of its life. If it was in the seasons, which is quite apt for where I've run my career, has followed the seasons with fresh produce. We're not quite in the autumn yet, and I suppose we're still in the summer, but as I say, that 2 years would have been in the summer. Before that, there was, winter and spring, and so there's a long story back from that as well. The things that were the growth and the wrongs and the rights we did, and the different ways that the industry's gone, and the way life's gone for me.
Yeah, before we go where we are today, it'd be great because for the very few people, I would think, that doesn't know your journey, but it was actually happened a bit by accident in a way that you started up Bill's and it became what it is today.
I come from a family of growers, and that's how we got our life. We weren't any plan to become rich. It was just feed ourselves every day and pay our way. And I only knew fresh produce, and that's what I went into. In some ways it's because it was the easy option, and I was young and I was lazy, and that was the easy option. And I hated it for a while. What I hated then, I now love, and it's really weird. It's sort of something I didn't want to do, now I long to do, really do long to do it, and I'm sure I'll do more of it in the future. And it took me on a path of more luck than judgment into what I'm doing, and we had huge success. But I've been very lucky, and I think business is a lot about luck. I've been in the right place at the right time, met good people. I've been lucky that those good people were the right decisions to work with and be around. Kind people, which I've enjoyed their company. Also honest in a way. They're frank conversations and say the right things to you and not scared to tell you what's wrong and what they feel. In amongst that way, I've had people work for us that have taken us in a direction that we shouldn't have gone in, but in hindsight, you can't always know the right thing to do at the right time. But so I started with a small fresh produce stall in Lewis, and that sort of grew and got a little bigger, and we started turning things into products that we could sell. That when, say, a tomato was left, it got turned into a tomato tart or a tomato soup. And then my sister-in-law said, what you're doing with this fresh produce, you're making it look amazing, and we should open a cafe. I thought she was slightly bonkers, but we did. And with my wife, brother-in-law Mark, and my sister-in-law Tanya, we opened Bill's. And it sort of was a hit from day one. We had a really good chef. I worked really well with, and I felt that whatever I got, I tried to inspire him with different things that come in, different old vegetables, new things that were going on, stuff that we brought in from Ronger's market in Paris, which is the most amazing fresh produce market. And sort of the menu evolved. We were very breakfast led, brunchy, lunchy, and what was ever in the shop, then finished up in the cafe. And it was a lifestyle business. We loved what we did. We didn't think about growing it. We always thought we would like to open one in Brighton. We thought we'd open that straight away, but it took us 5 years to do that, and that was a great success straight away. We had an amazing building, a little off pitch, but it was, this food hall we could open, and it was definitely, again, led by fresh produce, cakes that had whatever was in season on them, whatever was in the hedgerow would be on them. flowers that were there would be decorating everything, and it was just putting on a show every day. And I think back and the times gone by, it was just we would all paint this picture that would just be so beautiful that guests should come in just to see. Maybe they couldn't even get a table. They just used to come in to look, and that was one of the biggest compliments we could be given. As I say, it wasn't the thought of us making loads of money. It was just, I mean, Tanya used to think about it more than I did because she was more operational and she was more business-led, and she was definitely the person that made sure pound, shilling and pence paid the bills and paid the wage costs and everything else. I was just there triturating fruit and making it look beautiful, and it was a great time. And then we were lucky enough to get suited by lots of different businesses that said, we can open this, why not join forces? And by that time I'd done 4 or 5 years of working 24/7, and we never opened on Sundays, we never opened in the evening, and it was a huge growth thing that we could do more there. And got approached by it's now someone who's my friend, Chris Benions, who's partner in Bill's, who was working with Richard Caring, and Richard came and saw Bill's, loved it, and got involved with us and been together ever since. So that was when we had 2, now there's 80 odd, and been very lucky to work with both of them. And lots of other interesting people along the way. That's
an amazing journey you've been on. And then you had the business, of course, as you said, evolved and changed like the industry has. So what is going on right now with Bill's? Because a couple of weeks, I think it was last week, I was together with an intern that worked for us from Surrey University, and we went to Bill's in Horsham.
Okay.
And I can see something is going on. I also seen in Soho in London, the colours are changing a bit.
Everyone knows that the industry is high street restaurants have gone through a hard time. You know, it's a bit of oversaturation, bit of dilution in qualities, and new stuff happening with independents out there, and we need to step up our game. We need to make it put on a better show, give the guests a little more than they perceive they're going to get. And Bill's was always somewhere with everyone wanted to go there, wanted to be seen there for lunch and brunch and breakfast. We never really paid much focus on dinner and supper time. And in all honesty, I look at their business and I think, well, I can see why people want to be there for lunch and brunch, but dinner, we need to make it a bit more of a show going on there, a bit more of theatre, a bit more warm, a bit more special, without losing what we've got. And Richard was the one saying this, this is what we need to make it more aspirational. So we chose 3 restaurants to start off with, which was St Albans, Covent Garden and Westfield, and they've been trading over a year now, and we just gave them a little makeover, some lipstick and some makeup on them, changed a few ways we did things, changed the menu slightly, and everything, all the little touch points, and just made slight differences in service, all the little things that make it more, you feel special about being there for dinner.
Yeah.
And they were a great success, a huge success. And so then Richard said, well, let's do 10 more. So we did 10 more. Soho was one of them, several in London, in the London villages, and they've all been very successful. But in amongst that, it's to almost give the business another lift as well. So while some businesses were talking about CVAs, and we invested in more training, the menu, more development, and also who we were, what we are, where we've come from, and thinking what we need to be in the future, not just now, things we're not, but we want to aspire to be. And we've done that over the last 2-3 months, and there's a goal up there from what way we treat our teams, from the way we treat our guests, and what we want to, how we want to see this business going forward. And we're not there completely. We're there totally in some ways, but there's other things we now have to reach out to get to. And most of the things are things we have been. Some that we never would got to before because we'd never unearthed it. But things we are thinking we've been there before and we've forgotten that, and we now need to go back in and bring back some of the things we did in the past, bring them back and make them better, look after our teams more, have more frank and honest conversations with them, because that's what's needed. The goal's been set and now we're reaching out for that. And part of these new makeovers and the little looks and the way we do things are all part of that. It's to give us that boost to get there. And it's been very successful. And do you know what? I've so enjoyed it over the last year, 18 months. It's almost taken me back in time from when I had one restaurant to get back in and get unearth things. And you have to be frank and honest, but see teams rise to that challenge. Enjoying winning. You know, most people just want to do a good job and win and see themselves performing in a way that pleases everyone, but most of all pleases the guest. See the guest return and happy and put on a show that they're applauded for.
So you talk a lot about putting on a show, and is that your way of framing the total experience within the restaurant, also both for the customers but also for the employees? You mentioned them as well, like.
Restaurants are no different than theatre. It's entertainment. People are choosing to be there for their entertainment. So when you step into a restaurant, you know, the actors are the waitresses and the waiters. The director is the manager. And so you're putting on that show. It's on stage, off stage. You know, there has to be honesty with it. You know, and when things go wrong, it's your chance to ad lib. It's a chance to. You know, if you go to a concert and someone forgets their words, the best bit of that concert you'll remember will be those words that the guy sings that aren't on that song sheet. And that's when every waitress, every manager and everyone that's performing in our restaurants get the chance to overperform, over-deliver is when things go wrong, which they will do, because we're human beings and things go wrong. It's only recently I've started thinking it is entertainment, but when you go back, I was putting on a show. I wanted people to come in to look, to take pictures, which back in the day it wasn't, you know, Instagram and Facebook wasn't there, but it's about that. It's about making people go wow. It's about making people get more than they perceive they're going to get, and wanted to come back to see it all again, and changing and evolving, and you know, being nimble, quick on your feet to do things.
But I could imagine a lot of listeners out there in the podcast thinking, wow, this is a massive organization. You've grown from 2 establishments to now to be 80, and then trying to go back to what you want. How do you do that? Because a lot of people, especially when they put on the ops hat or the business hat, think, how do they create consistent in that and make people create these special moments?
Along with what I've just said there, consistency is very important. So if someone comes and gets a huge plate full of tomato soup one day, and the next time they turn up to have the tomato soup in your restaurant is half the size or doesn't taste quite so sweet, then I'm not going to be impressed. So consistency is important. How do you make it happen? It's not easy. If it was easy, anyone could do that job. But I think you have to have a goal and you have to work with it, and you have to give the guests more. Normally, I think if you make it easy for yourself, then the guests lose out. So whatever becomes easy for a restaurant to do, whether it be, have paper napkins rather than linen napkins, the guest loses out. So it's all those things that if it becomes tricky to do, it's normally good for the guest. So when you make things easy, simplify it, then normally the guests lose out. So to me, it's how can you do the tricky things well, and simplify them as well. You know. So, and also teams need to be challenged as well. I mean, people want to go to work and do something that inspires them. If it becomes normal, cut and paste, you're not going to get good people working for you. So you have to. There's a balancing act there.
And as I understand you have used this opportunity, investing back into the business, but also to shift the mindset a bit within the whole team about who you actually are and what you want to become.
Talk's cheap, money buys the beer. You can say what you want to say. You can do, what you have. It's the way you act is what makes a difference. And sometimes you can't throw all the babies out with the bathwater. You have to do it in a organised way. Yeah. But it's having that goal and how you're going to get there. the things we do now which we want to change and do better, the things we want to have more traceability on, all the things that happen within a business. And you can't do it completely overnight, but you can have that goal. You can chip away at it, and work as a team, work together, and be hungry to have good morals about what you do.
You talked a bit about, just before as well, you were focusing more on putting on a different show in the evening. What would be different when I come into a Bill's in the evening now from we just go a couple of years back?
People want to be treated slightly different when they go out for dinner than when they go out for lunch and breakfast. I think they want to be greeted in a different way. I think they want to be treated in a different way, and I think they want to look at something on the menu in a different way. And they also want to be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
They want to feel they're in a different environment. I think we are learning, and I think we're doing it in a way that's doesn't lose what we've got in at breakfast time and lunch, but definitely it's showing signs across the whole estate, a whole restaurant, every restaurant, is showing signs that what we're doing is making a difference, and the look, the feel, the fun, it's just about, we all know where we want to go out and eat in the evenings, and people are a little bit chain adverse at the moment, so you have to give them another reason to be there. And what I try to do is make it so it feels like it's home from home. I try and make it feel like you want to meet up with a best friend just for have a quick supper after work, or on a Friday or Saturday you want to put some lipstick on and go there for a special occasion, just the two of you. Or it's a place you can trust where you can say, I've booked this table for 10, we can go and eat there. And we've always been very good for that. I mean, people always feel that Bill's is a special occasion for big groups, and it's something we are working on even more to make it so you know what you're in for, you know what you're going to spend, and the person who's booking that Maverick, who says, I'm the one, because there's always one or two people in a party that organises things, and they need to find someone they can trust, and I want Bill's to be that place. Well, I think we are, but even more, work on it even more. When we think we've got it, try again, do more. More sharing, more when you go in, there's more platters for starters, there's more puddings, you can have a group pudding, and just more you can share.
I guess it's like, I had a boss that learned me once that it's all about creating this environment where they know you, they like you, they trust you in a way, and there's all these small interactions that's happening with the guests,
Yeah.
And how have you done like that, creating that vibe in the evening? Have you trained the staff in a different way? That's been invested in that to approach that differently? Or?
Yeah, I think there's a little difference in training, not hardly anything. Most of it's making them mindsets. How do you want to be treated yourself when you go out for dinner? What do you do? What is the difference? Instead of putting a water jug on the table, you pour the water for the guests. When the guests sit down, you pull a chair out. All the little things. When someone comes in for breakfast, they almost wander in and find their own table, but they come in for dinner and they're greeted. But there's no silver bullet, it's just lots of little things. The same way there's no sudden death, there's just lots of little cuts if you get things wrong. You never know which one it is. And some things are, all those little things you do that make it easier for yourself, you never know which one is the one that is making you falter. And the same way as if you took away the pouring of water, would that be the one that makes a difference? So there's never any one thing, but I think it's a group message of look, feel, softness, warmth, service, and we can't forget why people are coming there. Coming there to eat. So consistency, inspiration, a meaning to be there, food-wise, which is the most important thing. The most important thing is but it's not the only thing. It's the smell, it's the touch, it's all the senses that go with going out for dinner.
Yeah, because it's a feeling.
Yeah, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
And you get a soul of a restaurant, and it's got almost an atmosphere, like a theatre.
Yeah.
It is like a theatre. It's got an atmosphere, a soul. You can feel it. I go into lots of restaurants, and they feel ones that feel like a film set. The ones that actually you go in, there's no guests in there, but they still feel like a restaurant.
You can feel the energy.
You can feel energy. And so when that energy is not there, imagine what it's like when it is there, when the guests are there, when it is bustling. But as restaurants you go in, they're going to be good restaurants because you can feel that energy. Yeah. They feel that space straight away.
And what you say there, I've actually talked with quite a lot of founders and managing directors about their food business, where they say that's where we started. Many of them, they're on this search of finding back to that energy, that bustling. Because we all know from the industry, when we come into a place, we know it works or not. So I would say that when I was in Horsham, there was an amazing energy when I came in that door. It was just great.
It was a lovely building. So buildings always help. But I have got restaurants that haven't got that energy. And they're very few, but I know I can feel it. And sometimes it's because of a team are disgruntled. They can take it. They can sap that energy as well. But you can definitely tell. You can tell when something's got that buzz about it, and you can tell when there's no one in there.
So, are you continuing slowly then to roll out this new way of being Bill, or doing Bill's, the slight change across the estate, or is there specific restaurants this fits to? Or
what I don't want to do is make everything the same. I want every site to be site specific, i.e. it's got its soul, it's got its look, it's got its feel, it's got its team. They're all slightly different, and I want that to come out. But with the trust of our teams underpinning, looking after, supporting, and being, I want to say family, it's not family, I don't know what is the word, but we can all work together to help each other. And I think, so we've got another 10 sites we're doing this summer, but none are the same. They're all slightly different, got their own feel about them. We start, I think, in Cardiff's the next one, which is a phenomenal business, the Cardiff business. There's no reason to go and do anything, only that we want to give it a bit more. We want to, so Cardiff is the first one after that, and I think then there's Nottingham, and then we've got and there's a few local ones, there's Brighton, Lewis at the end of the year, so there's lots going on. But as I say, I look at even say Lewis or Brighton, and I want to take Brighton, I want to give back what we did there 10 years ago. And so it's not all about a coat of paint and a new chair, it's about what goes on the menu, and what goes on in the look and the feel of fresh, as much as a structural thing.
What you're actually touching on here is also the whole personalization, this personal experience we all want. That's a bit different when we go out. We're looking for. We had Camilla Sidwell about a month ago on the podcast, and she talks a lot about bespoke experiences, both from the drinks to the food to the way you approach each customer that's coming in, reading the customers and so on. Is that something also you are following as a strategy in Bill?
I think we've always been our teams are very kind, and the compliments we get across the estate, where we gift, we celebrate people's birthdays with them, we have such loyal guests that come back on numerous occasions, and we're very good at that personalisation. I just want to do it more. I want us to, if we open in Glasgow, it's follow that, whatever's the Glasgow sausage. We should be making, and which obviously, as I said, makes it harder for ourselves. It makes it so much harder not to have a company sausage that can have the great provenance, but wouldn't it be nice if we can search out products from around that area that we can have on their menu, that when you go into Glasgow, then you have a Bill's breakfast in Glasgow, then undercover, we don't have to blatantly talk about it, but what we'll do is, from a personal point of view, I know that there's traceability to this farm that's close to us that's created this sausage, and we can do the same. Sussex, Kent, it makes it more tricky, but won't the guests like it more in the long run? And if they then if we don't even brag about that, but they discover it, they uncover it, there's more truth in that. And then if you talk about something, then some people will believe you, but if they find it on their own, everyone believes you.
Yeah. And there's one thing you talked a lot about when we've been having conversations before, is that sometimes things goes wrong with the guest, or in general go wrong. That's an opportunity, and you have a very unique approach that really grounded in me after our conversation. So that's the way to approach it.
I mean, we're all going to get things wrong. It's how you put them right, and so obviously if you can put them right I mean, if you come in for a dinner at Bill's and something's not quite right, and we replace it and we overperform to put it right, you leave that restaurant thinking, wow, God, they did such a good job. If you just got what you wanted in the first place and what you perceived you were going to get, you leave thinking, well, that was okay, that was good, we got that. But if someone makes a mistake and they put it right in such a good manner, you leave there wowed by that business. So it's almost, to make a mistake is the opportunity, the chance to put it right well. And I take that on board with the whole of the business now. We've made some mistakes. We've got the opportunity to put it right. And so if I feel that it's a huge opportunity for not just our business, but lots of businesses to see it wasn't even what we did wrong at the time. It wasn't wrong at the time, but it's wrong for now. And we need to put that right. And if we put it right well, and we put it right quickly and in a exciting theatre-ish way where we can put on that show, we can make ourselves be looked upon as better than we were in the first place.
Going a bit into the industry, we touched shortly on in the beginning as well. There's been a lot of things happening, and there's some people have been struggling, but there's also a lot of new things happening, and the market is still thriving. And I remember my mom always said to me that she was a restaurateur herself. She said that always going to be work for the undertaker and the restaurateur, because we're going to eat and we're going to die.
Well, there is that thing where the high street's struggling. Yeah. Everyone still wants to go out for an experience. If you can put on the show, then there's always that experience. I mean, there is Deliveroo, there's a supermarkets doing this 2-for-1 dinners on a Saturday night, but they don't give you that experience. They don't give you that theatre. They don't give you that life of taking yourself out and you're on stage in that restaurant, where you actually, and that's what we've got ahead of anyone, along with the Undertaker. That's people will always go out to take themselves out and to enjoy life, and you've got to make yourself that place where if they've got less to spend, but they want to spend it with you. Yeah. And so the way to do that is to make your show better than someone else's. All
the things that's happening in the industry, where do you see the industry is in a couple of years' time? Because there's a lot of change going on in the moment. There's also newbies coming on along. There's a lot of positive stories as well.
It's amazing. In sort of startups, independents. I mean, obviously, because I look at my little local town, which is Lewis. I've never seen so many shops for let. Shops that haven't come up in the whole of my life. Traders that have been there, since for the last 30 years are now empty, and so there's going to be opportunities for people to go into units where there wasn't the opportunity, where they were priced out of the market for many years by big operators or operators that have been there doing lifestyle shops all their lives, and so there's going to be more opportunity, and plus there's more opportunity because there's more food halls and market, sort of Victoria, Box Park, all those things are opening doors for independents to try new things. There's been oversaturation, there's been some casualties, and I think there's still a place for us. I still think there's a place for anyone that ups their game, and I think there's huge opportunities out there, huge.
One thing I've noticed is that especially smaller groups is booming forward in the moment, where they really are focusing on what you also said, putting on a theatre, where the whole guest experience is very different. The Fight Club, Dart Club, is Mowgli in the north, there is the Shoom. A lot of people are doing really, really great things. Are you seeing there will become more of these smaller groups that's moving forward, or would it be more independent led, as you just mentioned?
I think I can't see anyone opening up 80 restaurants for the same thing anymore. I look at a place like Caravan. I think there's 6 of them now. Will they now diversify into doing 6 of something else or 6 of something else? There's been some bad stuff going on out there, some quality issues in the casual dining industry, and so people have to step up and make it a better experience for people. And what I'm seeing within our business is that there's growth. We are growing because of it. Our sales are growing day on day, and I'm enjoying that. I like the winning thing, and as I said, I've spent the last year involved with that, and it takes me back to the first 5 years of starting up my first of Bills. And, we're going to be doing more. We're going to be trialing new things, making it more exciting.
One of the things that's been a lot of focusing on recently in the industry as well. Also, we are focusing more and more again back to looking at, as you talked about, the product, the experience, but also our guests. But that's also our teams. There's more and more investment now coming back into the teams, and of course there's a outside circumstances like Brexit that makes it harder to find the right amount of talent. How are you approaching all that in Bills? Because it's again normally a place where people stick around for longer time. And
I think it's all about support. It's about making sure you give people a chance to grow their careers, opportunities, and then once you've given them a chance to grow their careers, supporting them in the right way. Sometimes it's about having tough conversations with people, saying you're not quite ready for that yet, but let's get you where you want to be, and not taking the easy option sometimes, which is to just take someone that's in your business and give them a pay rise, give them a role, and then not support them with it properly, because you're too busy to do these things. But it's going to be difficult because obviously European neighbours, they don't feel as welcome as they were. And the opportunities in their own countries are larger, and they fill a big part of the job space within our restaurants. All we can do is look after them. All we can do is give them the chance to improve their careers and support them and make them feel welcome in our business. And give them, as I say, give them as much support and make them feel like they're wanted.
Creating this environment for, you're talking a bit about like what you call a high performance environment without having to be extreme in a way, but it's this place where you feel very special as well as an employee. Are you doing any different things? Are you doing training in a different way? Have you changed the way you're looking for people? Or?
Yeah, of course, all the time.
Yeah.
When we did the new Bills, in a way we made it such a big thing. But I look back at over the last 13 we did, it was a big thing, but it wasn't any more than we're doing now. Just a few little things, and I think you can make things seem like a mountain to people.
Yeah.
And if you make things talk like it's a mountain, they find it hard to climb. If it's a little walk in the park and there's a few hills, then but if you talk it and make it difficult, you can make things difficult yourself. Sometimes you make things difficult because it's too hard at that time to make them easy, and it's too big a job to make them easy. Good's good, bad's always been bad, and I think that's what you need to make sure people see, and it's just how people treat other people the way they want to be treated themselves, from internally and to your guests. So when you go, you know the things you like when you go out for dinner, and you know things you like when you go out for breakfast, and also you know the way you want to be treated at work, and that's the main thing. And you won't always get it right, but as long as you strive to, and if you make a mistake, you try and put it right.
I was at the casual dining show yesterday, and you could definitely feel the conversation that was about how do we as an industry as a whole set higher standards within this, and how do we, as you say, how do you just become better, and how do you make people feel welcome?
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that we as an industry are that, because we're all dependent on these people floating around in a way, so we all know we borrow them for a certain amount of time and then they probably move on to somewhere else.
Yeah, it's very transient. The whole industry's, people do it for a while.
Yeah.
It's never been classed totally as a career. I think we need to make it a career.
Yeah.
I think we need to make people feel they're in something that they're, there's growth. So to me, all the best KPs, kitchen porters, become the best sous chefs and the best chefs. They're the ones that you can grow. I've been around for Bills for a long time now, and I see guys that were waitresses have worked their way through the business to become AMs, GMs, AGMs in their business, and then come up through all that. And I just had this thing. We did a thing to try and understand where we were, what we are, where we want to be, and we took these people from within our business. So from the chairman of Bills, David, who instigated the whole thing, and from operations managers to managing director to Chris Benion's a partner and head of the food at Bills, to me, to GM sitting there. We did a lot of listening to them, and they came up with what they thought where we should be. the GMs were the ones that come up with the words. They were the ones that made the sentences to inspire me. Well, I couldn't actually get out myself, and definitely, we have to listen to what the teams feel, and because they're the ones on a day-to-day business, day-to-day running their businesses and looking after their teams and their guests. And so we have to work with them, inspire them, and negotiate what they do, and support them.
This is super interesting because that's also a very different way than a more maybe traditional environment where you actually invite people from the business into as the senior management to listen to their stories and what they think where you should go, because I guess that's what do you call it, bottom up in a way. And
I mean, they amazed me. I was inspired by the way they performed in that meeting. It made me feel excited that, God, these are young people in their early 20s, and I was proud to be there with them.
On this journey you've been on, and now you say it's another phase of that journey. I guess also that means that you have been reinventing yourself on that journey all the time, because I could imagine from having one shop to two shop to 10.
I miss those days. I miss those days where I can actually go and paint the picture myself and put on that show and see where you've been sometimes, where you go to market in the mornings, the farmers bring their produce in and you can paint that picture, and you can also see the delight the guest gets. You miss that. And I'm definitely, part of my role now will be to get back in and get my hands dirty doing that. I'm looking forward to that.
So we'll see you in the kitchens?
A little bit maybe, a little bit. And also, just stylising it. I want to put some more fresh back into definitely Lewis and Brighton a little bit, and a lot more juicing going on, a lot more vegetarian, a lot more vegan, and a lot more focus on, what my partner calls a veg-centric founder, and veg-led. So whatever's in season, whatever cabbage is there will be what's on it. Cabbage, and it would be a delight in some way that's quirky and done in a different way. So you'll see more veg on the menu, more veg is king, and salad and fruit.
And I guess that's also coming back to where the guests are moving, because people in general are becoming more aware about the plant-based food and what it does to yourself, but also what actually the impact it has on the planet and sustainability.
We're not inventing that. I'm saying that we should own it, because that's our heritage, and we've lost our way a bit with that, and we are aiming now to grow, follow those seasons. Find a new way of doing things and just have some fun with it, make it fun.
What is in your mind the biggest challenge in going forward now and implementing all these things and getting it right and putting on the right show, as you mentioned before? What is going to be your biggest challenge on that journey now?
The biggest challenge is always people. It's finding people that you can aspire to stay with you, and having room to grow them correctly, and making sure we treat them in a way with the support they should have. It's no surprise that where you've got really good teams, the business does really well, and so it's that, and obviously making sure we're aspirational in food, and exciting, and beauty, because people buy with their eyes.
Coming into back a little bit into the industry, there's been a lot of change. We call it tech, call it Deliveroo. There's been more like instant ordering, and there's been a lot of talk about that this is going to take seats away from the restaurants or diners away, because they would not rather order it and sit at home. Where do you think that's going to evolve over the next couple of years? Because it's a growing market.
Of course, you need to be in it, but you also need to have that distinction that people still can't have that same experience. So whatever we do, we need to still put on a show. It's not, you have to make what we can deliver, what can be delivered to your home, delivered well, and delivering what people actually want to eat at home. And then when they come into the restaurant, it needs to be a show you put on. Maybe it's because you want to be seen reading the Times newspaper or whatever paper you read on a Sunday morning on your own, and having a bacon sandwich or brunch with the whole family, or dinner at night. There's a separate thing there. And it's something that you can't, we'll never take away from, is that show, and that's why it's the most important thing is the experience. It's putting in the experience. You know, that whole thing about when you come into a restaurant is theatre, delivery, and deliveries and supermarkets can't take that away from you. You know, and you know that's where we need to lead the way, and it's where the whole restaurant industry needs to be on their game and making sure that is what they're doing.
Who are you looking at when you want to get inspired from the industry? Is there any content out? It could also be outside the borders, but anyone you like thinking that's where we get a bit of an inspiration from. They're doing it really well.
I mean, there's lots of restaurants that I go into. I think in independence, I think you can take bits out of and food halls, markets. I mean, my best times to me are when I'm on the farm, in the market, in a greenhouse somewhere. I get most inspiration from. I get inspiration from colours and. I mean, I just looked at this ceiling in this room here. I thought, well, you know, it does actually in certain ways make something look nice and so. But actually, restaurant-wise, I look at past. I look what I mean. My sister-in-law's doing at Marmaid. I think we should be a bit more like that locally with Bill's and as was. But then I also look at when people go out. They go out to, as I say, to be entertained, and then I look at places like the River Cafe. When you go in there, you know, it's top end, but the entertainment's still there. You've got a feel about it, you know. And it's that look from inside out when you go in somewhere. You look through the windows and you've got those layers of, you know, warmth and candles and supper time feel. And there's lots of restaurants you go to that give you bits and pieces of all that. Dishume, you know, it's got that thing. It's a little bit different everyone. I mean, there's not many of them still, but it's got that. You know, you're safe. There's a safety net of, you know, you're going to get something that's reliability, but you still feel like you're in a special place when you go to eat there. And I think obviously that the time out markets, and you know, there's interesting things going on there. And I think Bill's menu is a little bit along those lines, where you go in and if you want a burger, you can have a burger, but you can also have a sea bass, or you can also have your macaroni cheese, or you know, something for everybody there. So you capture a bigger audience. So it's a bit like that, but you're sitting in an environment and getting served as if you're in a restaurant. It's
interesting, you know, into the Times Market, Victoria Market Halls, or Fulham, and you can definitely see that southern feel of doing food is definitely coming to Northern Europe. It's coming more of that. And I guess that's also about, again, putting on a theatre, because then you are more than one restaurant putting on a theatre, your number, and then there's all the operational wins with it as well, because it's a smaller setup.
Well, it just gives people a chance to do things without the worry. I mean, to do things without that massive investment, to chance their luck, to see if it would work, to fulfil a dream, because lots of people want to own a restaurant, lots of people feel they can cook. When you do it every day, day in, day out, it's not so glamorous sometimes. But you know, it gives people the chance, it's opening doors for them to new things to happen. And I think we need to look at, you know, look what's new. Try new things, you know. Nothing's really new, everyone's magpied something from somewhere. And also the spaces that evolve around it, in the box park, so there's always entertainment, from yoga in the morning to beat bop at night, you know, there's lots going on there, you know. And I know they've just opened at Wembley, I don't know if you've been there yet, and that's a pretty amazing space. Victoria Food Hall, it's got a feel about it, where it is, it feels like it's been there forever in some ways, you know.
You're right.
It's
a very special feel in there when you come in.
I mean, right down to actually the things I would moan about are, I can actually smell too many foods, so you think the extract's not working properly, but that's a market for you, isn't it? You know, so it is part of the environment. You go out smelling of the food you just eaten in some ways, but it adds to that hustle bustle. It's got that street food feel to it, but you know, it's an amazing and very popular. I mean, it just shows you what people want to do.
Yeah, and I guess also because then you can come together to a group where everyone can have what they really want to have, and they're probably going to get the best of the best. The best of the best sausage, the best of the best salad bowl, because that's the trade that is just focusing on being good at one thing, do one thing well.
At an affordable price, so you can do it more than once a week. Yeah, that's the thing. But you know, I think we are, because of what we sell, very lucky that we've we've got the chance to have everything from around the world on their menu if you want. I mean, they're British but with a twist, and that's what we've always been good at. And we've always had, from day one, where my head chef at Bill's, Annie Pellegrin, had done a lot of travelling, spent a lot of time in the Far East. Tanya obviously had come back to work in Hong Kong, come back to work in UK. Her head chef out there was May, who come back and influenced a little bit of the menu at Bill's. So we always had dipped in of different things from Europe and Asia, So whether it be a nasi goreng with a British twist to it, or nasi goreng with parsnip, it doesn't. It always had something from around the world dipped into it.
Would we in the near future anticipate seeing Bill's outside the UK borders?
The last year we've really tucked ourselves in, gone back and, I would just say, looked after some restaurants, tried some different things of what we've got. We are obviously. We want our business to grow, and we will be opening more restaurants, and we're looking at sites now. I'm sure what we do lends itself to be in other countries at some time. But I don't think, and I know we haven't got any plans at this moment in time to be going. Let's look after what we've got. We're very lucky that Bill's can be in Glasgow, Cardiff, but it also can slip into Whitney. There's several regions of Bristol where it could be, you could have more than one. So we are we can be your neighbourhood restaurant, or your in the high street in the city, and there's lots of places, lots more venues in this country where I think you'll see a Bill's crop up before we go abroad.
Who is your personal hero? Who are you looking up to when you're looking for inspiration and need that extra boost of energy when the tough gets going?
The closest person to me is my wife. She's the one that gives me that boost of energy. She says to me, she's definitely the one who I say, oh God, this has been hard. She always sees, her glass is always half full rather than half empty with me, and she's always, when I'm up there, she'll make me get down, but when I'm down there, she'll always pick me up. And she's like, I don't always agree with her, but when I walk away, she's normally 99% of the time right. I'm very much been in Bill's, and for the first 20 years of running Bill's before it joined forces with anyone else, I didn't get over Cliff Bridge in Lewes. So I've not sort of grown up in this industry. I've grown up looking after Bill's in Lewes as a fresh produce store. But if I've got a problem, I go to one man, which is Chris Benions. Chris Benions looks like he's an inspiration to me in food, and he's always comes out with the right answer. If he thinks I'm wrong, he'll always say it. There's never anything held back with him. He always just says who I am. So he's my first port of call when I think something's going wrong. My sister-in-law, I've got to give a special mention for her, because she's my sister. She's my sister, and we have barneys, we have arguments. But she's another port of call when I've got a real big problem. Go to time. She normally sees the cold light of day with things. But definitely. Very food-led, very guest-led, always guest first, always puts the guest in front of the margin, all those different things, 100% of nothing's nothing, it's all, but yes, definitely her. And obviously, my partner, Richard, he always says it the way it is, and has been supportive of Bill's right the way through, in every way you could think he would be,
So it's a portfolio of great people you're having around you to give you guidance and finding those ways and things.
Yeah, and sometimes you do things you think, God, should you really be doing that? And they normally come out and say, no, you shouldn't. They come up with the right way of doing things normally. So there's many years you go to.
In the end of our podcast, we always ask the Maverick on it if they would have any advice for either upcoming entrepreneurs or leaders in the industry. What would that one advice be?
Never give up on your heart and your passion. Always make sure it's you're doing, because you're doing things for money, but you spend a lot of time in your life doing something, so you must do something you believe in. Think lucky. If you think lucky, you'll be lucky, and I think you've got to think positive about everything you do, and realise that you're never going to love everything all the time. The good times outweigh the bad times. Then stay with it, and stay with what you do. Give things a chance to to work the way you believe they should work, but then also don't let the past rule the future. Make sure you change with the times and go with the flow with things. And also the most important thing is, if you want to stay small, you can. It's not being big can be sour sometimes. Sweet can be small. You can do just as well keeping it tight. I've been very lucky, and I'm sure that there are better ideas and beautiful business out there. I haven't been so lucky but I've been in the right place at the right time to grow my business. And as I say, more luck than judgment sometimes, and great support by people that are very good at what they do. Yeah, so I think most of all is you've got to do something you enjoy doing, and if you enjoy doing it, it normally inspires everyone around you, your guests, your teams, and when it stops being so lovely, you don't enjoy it, maybe you're slightly taking the business in a way you shouldn't have taken it, and then you should readdress it and go back to what you love doing, because normally that's what's going to make, if you're not enjoying the song you're singing, you're not going to sing it very well, and so no one wants to listen.
That was a very good advice. So it's about looking at yourself and the energy you, in a way, send out in your surrounding. Bill, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that have been quite inspired about your journey and what you've done. And thank you again for coming today.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Thank you.